Okay, so that was a quick look at some of the tools. You see that right now we do have a project going, but we don't have a composition. We don't have anything here either. So in our first video, when we took a look at the movie, you saw that we dragged it down and we hit this to create a new composition. We can do the same thing, but we just don't need to drag anything down there. And so we can click on that video or that button, create new composition. We can give us a name, and maybe we want to just call this practice. Okay, and we can leave all this the same. This was what it was at for our last time. That's fine. We can just keep that the same as well. And so now you'll see we've got this composition panel here with some things on there. We've got our composition here. What we want to do just to begin to actually practice it with this is to just draw a shape. So we want to come up to our shape tool, also called the rectangle tool. If we click and hold down, you see that we have our other options, very similar to Illustrator. So what I want to do is just draw a rectangle, and you'll see then that when I click on that tool and I have that tool highlighted and it turns blue, that I get some options again, just like Illustrator. I get my fill color, I get my stroke color, I get the stroke width, and I can actually begin to draw shapes, much similar to Illustrator. So let's just do this. Let's just draw a real quick shape, just something like that. Whatever, doesn't matter what it looks like necessarily, just that we have a shape. Okay. Now, when I do that, you'll see down at the bottom that it puts it in and it says shape layer 1. Now, something that's going to be really, really important to do in After Effects is going to be to name our layers. We're going to end up with a lot of different pieces in these, and if we are not sure what our layer is, it can be real easy to get confused. So what we'll do then is we want to just click back on our selection tool and then come down here and select it and hit return on your keyboard. When you do that, then you'll see that it gives you the option to type in there. So let's just name this red rectangle and then hit return again, and it will go in. That way we know exactly what it is that we're editing, because you'll see there's gonna be a lot of stuff in there and it can get confusing. So this will help us just to remember and to know what it is that we are editing when we do that. Okay, let's go ahead then and let's hit this down arrow and come down here to where it says transform. And from here now we've got a number of different things that we can do to transform this rectangle. We've got our position, and so we can change the position of this in a couple ways. We can drag it, and you'll see as we drag our rectangle around that this number is changing. So as we move across in the x-axis, that's moving, I am slightly moving it in the y as well. So again, remember our x is horizontal and our y is vertical. And you can see that this kind of acts as a coordinate grid, and it shows where it's moving on there. We could also just type on it, and if we knew a specific place that we wanted it to be, we could type in the coordinates for it, and that would move it directly to that position as well. Okay, so we can change the position with that. We can also change the scale of it. So right now it's at 100%, which is what it is when we drew that shape. We can come in here and we can change the scale of it. We could say we want it actually to only be 50%, and it will change the scale down to 50% of the size that it was when we started. Now, if I don't necessarily want that, one quick thing that we could do on our keyboard, we could hit Command Z, and Command Z will switch that back to how we started. Okay, but that's a kind of a quick and easy way to do that, is to hit Command Z. And then we can also rotate it. So let's say I wanted to rotate this 90 degrees. It's going to rotate it up there and put it, do a 90-degree rotation. Now you'll notice that it seemed to kind of like flip way up here. That's because our anchor point is set to the middle, and so it's rotating around there. If I want to change that so that maybe it just rotates on this point here, I can come up and I can click on my pan behind, or you'll see that it says in parentheses anchor point, and I can change what the anchor point is. So I'm going to click on that there, and I want to change the anchor point to that one. Now when I go in and I hit 90, oops, okay. So I'm going to click on this tool, the pan behind or anchor point, and right now you see that I've got this little kind of like crosshairs looking thing. This is where the anchor point currently is set to. I can drag this around and I can move it, so maybe I want it to be right in the middle of my rectangle so that when I come down to my rotation, I can put 90 and now it rotates it right around this anchor point. That's going to be a helpful tool to know because we may at times want it to rotate around a certain point, around a different axis, and that is how we're going to be able to change that anchor point. You'll see also then that when I moved the anchor point, it gave it new coordinates. So previously it was 0, 0. Now I moved it, and now it's in the middle, to the middle of the rectangle, and it changed my coordinates for my anchor point down here. And then finally, I can change the opacity of it as well. So maybe I want to put it at 50%. Remember, opacity is how easily you can see through the object. So I could put it at 50, or I could put it at 0, and you wouldn't be able to see it at all. You can see that this is just the outline of the shape from where I have it selected. Okay, so 10% makes it very faded. So those are a few of the quick options and things that we can do when we are creating shapes or text or video, some of the options that we have. So your first goal for today is just going to be to draw a shape and then just kind of begin to play with some of these different options underneath this transform category so that you can transform some of these different things and just really begin to see how that works. Okay? So go ahead and try that and see if you can get a shape to transform.